Hey there, and welcome to the deep dive. We've got a really fascinating stack of sources in front of us today. This is another segment of high-level conversations for the Quest for Totality blog.
It really is quite a collection. It goes into layers of reality that are, let's say, far stranger than the everyday. These texts lay out some pretty startling claims about hidden forces, a kind of secret history, and they talk very directly about how humans have supposedly been deceived and manipulated.
Yeah, deceived by outside forces, particularly getting into spiritual and energetic realms, even ancient lore. It's all in here.
Absolutely. These sources, they kind of weave together cosmic conflict, ancient legends, even modern events, and it's all framed through this lens of ongoing manipulation. They also really zero in on the period between 2000 and 2017.
Right, the stellar activation cycle, they call it.
Exactly, as a really critical time when all these dynamics were supposedly super active.
A key window, it seems, where these unseen forces were allegedly quite busy, with big implications for Earth's path forward, according to the material.
That's the picture they paint.
Okay, so our mission today is to unpack this. We want to try and understand the nature of the manipulation and deception described in these sources. Who are the alleged players? And, what do these documents actually suggest about how humans might counter these influences? Let's just dive in.
Let's do it.
Okay, so let's start with this hidden conflict idea because it's presented as the backdrop for everything else, really. The sources describe this long anticipated but presently hidden interdimensional interstellar war.
Yeah, and they're claiming it directly impacts Earth. Not just like abstractly, but something happening intensely during that 2017 period especially.
And they get pretty specific about the supposed players involved, don't they?
Oh, very specific. On one side, you have what they term the fallen Indelics or intruder ETs. This coalition is called the United Intruder Resistance, or UIR.
UIR, okay.
And that apparently includes groups like the Anunnaki, Zeta, Draconians, Reptilians, Necromite, and Andromi. And interestingly, they mentioned the Illuminati too.
But how do they fit in?
Well, they're described more as manipulated figures, puppets, almost, within this bigger UIR structure.
Puppets. Okay, that's a different angle on the usual narrative. What's the alleged goal of this UIR group, according to the texts?
Dominion, control. Specifically, the sources say, over Earth's planetary Templar.
Which they describe as Earth's energy grid, Stargate complex.
Exactly that, Earth's core energetic structure. And this whole agenda is apparently linked to a really long-term plan they call the Atlantean Conspiracy and an OWO master plan.
Oh, whoa. One world order.
That's what it stands for in the texts, yes. A very old agenda, supposedly.
Right. So alleged control of Earth's vital energy system. Who's presented as opposing this UIR?
On the other side, you have the Guardian Alliance and the Founders. This includes groups called the Emerald Covenant Nations and the Sirius B Maharaji.
And their goal?
Their stated goal, according to these sources, is the Christos Realignment Mission.
The Christos Realignment Mission.
No.
What does that actually involve in this context?
Well, it's presented as being about restoring Earth's original divine blueprint, facilitating a natural ascension process for the planet and, everyone on it.
So it's not just a physical fight, then?
Not at all, according to these texts. It's framed as a conflict over frequency, over the planet's energy grids, and crucially, over consciousness itself. The stakes are essentially Earth's entire evolutionary path.
Wow. A battle for consciousness itself waged across dimensions. That's the claim. Okay, this is where it gets really intricate, because the sources don't just list the players, they detail how these alleged fallen angelic forces have manipulated and deceived humanity.
Exactly. And the methods described are, well, presented as pretty varied and sophisticated, operating on multiple levels at once.
Like they mention mind control technologies.
Yes, quite explicitly. They talk about a Zeta collective mind complex supposedly running a brainwashing program.
A brainwashing program.
Designed to influence human behavior, apparently on subconscious and subliminal levels. And there's also the stated aim, linked to Zeta and Anunnaki groups in the text, to build a frequency fence.
A frequency fence.
Yeah.
What's that supposed to be? Like a cage for our minds?
That seems to be the idea presented, a technological barrier to limit consciousness. Basically keep humanity locked down energetically, unable to reach its potential.
And they use energy weapons, too. Scalar pulses.
The documents mention the alleged use of EM scalar pulses, yeah. Described as powerful energy transmissions aimed specifically at destabilizing Earth's Templar, that energy grid, and hindering natural DNA activation.
Which is key to evolution in this whole cosmology, right?
Absolutely key,
Yeah.
according to these sources. So it's technological interference hitting the planet and our biology.
And what about infiltration on Earth? You mentioned the Illuminati as puppets, but they also talk about interior world government figures.
Right, this points to the terrestrial side of the claimed operation. The sources allege that certain covert figures, people within what we might perceive as earthly power structures, are actually being manipulated by these fallen angelic UIR groups.
So hidden layers of control within human systems.
That's the claim, a kind of hidden hand guiding things from behind the scenes.
And they briefly mention genetic manipulation.
They do touch on it.
Yeah.
The claimed creation of hybrid races and attempts to mutate human DNA. Again, the apparent goal seems to be preventing humans from activating their full potential, blocking that ascension path linked to DNA.
Okay, this brings us to something the sources really emphasize, which feels central to this whole deception theme. Targeted manipulation within spiritual movements.
Yes, this is highlighted as a key strategy, suggesting the manipulation isn't just, external or technological, but it gets right into the spaces where people are actively seeking spiritual growth or healing.
And they pinpoint a specific time frame and movement.
They do. They claim infiltration of the channeling movement and various energy spiritual healing systems really ramped up around 1998.
1998, how did this supposed infiltration work? What do the texts say?
Okay, so the sources state that certain Anunnaki collectives, and they name names, like the Pleiadian Samjosi Luciferian, Nibiruan Enlil Odedicron, Thoth Inquisiphilium, and Galactic Federation groups allegedly defected from peace treaties around them.
Infected.
And these defecting groups supposedly use the channeling movement, transmitting through their own station called the Net, or Phi-X, to assemble what the texts call infiltrated Illuminati and human greeting teams.
Greeting teams, what were they? Greeting, and why?
Well, according to these documents, these teams were used to perform astral tagging on people active in New Age circles, and also to infiltrate existing healing systems.
Astral tagging, like an energetic marker or something.
Yeah, that's how it sounds, yes. A claimed energetic imprint or attachment. The point being, it's presented as a direct, targeted effort to deceive and energetically influence people who were genuinely seeking spiritual connection, potentially diverting them or marking them for control.
So actively inserting deceptive influences right into the spiritual marketplace, so to speak, not just blocking truth, but planting falsehoods.
Exactly. It's described almost like a counterintelligence operation within the spiritual landscape itself,
Yeah.
aiming to co-opt genuine seeking.
Wow. And this manipulation extends to ancient knowledge and legends, too.
Yes. The sources argue that ancient legends hold real hidden truths about this cosmic situation and human potential, but that these truths have also been deliberately twisted or obscured by these same intruder groups.
Like the story of King Arthur and the Grail quest.
That's a prime example they use.
Yeah.
The sources completely reframe that familiar legend. They describe the round table not just as a table, but as signet councils.
Signet councils, meaning...
Yeah. Councils linked to specific energy points on the planet, key nodes in the Templar grid. And the quest itself, not just for a cup, but an effort by Maiji Grail kings like Arthur, is presented to protect the Holy Grail knowledge.
And the Holy Grail knowledge is...
Defined in these texts as the knowledge of Earth's planetary Templar complex, its stargates, and also to reclaim a specific tool, a staff tool, described as crucial for operating the stargates.
Okay, so the quest was for knowledge and claimed energetic technology, not just a mystical object. What about Merlin? He's pretty central.
Right, and here's where the specific deception claim comes in, according to these texts. They state that Merlin, who they identify as a figure named Victorous, actually betrayed the Emerald Covenant mission.
Betrayed it? How?
He allegedly sided with the Hexos Knights Templar Galactic Federation agenda, basically, aligning himself with one of the key fallen angelic intruder factions mentioned earlier.
So a figure we see as wise counsel in the legends is reframed here as a participant in a cosmic betrayal.
Precisely. It links ancient myth, powerful hidden knowledge, these claimed ET agendas, and the theme of deception altogether. It suggests our cherished stories might hold clues, but also have been deliberately misleading.
That really reframes things, doesn't it? Suggesting this manipulation is woven deep into our stories, our history.
It certainly presents it that way, and the sources even connect this cosmology to, well, seemingly unrelated modern events.
Like 9/11, I saw that mentioned.
Yes. The sources present the events of September 11, 2001 as a staged public smokescreen, orchestrated, they claim, by UIR Illuminati factions, specifically mentioning the bin Laden group as, again, a manipulated element.
Smokescreen. For what?
According to these texts, it was allegedly to hide the effects of something called a trumpet pulse,
A trumpet pulse.
described as a powerful energy weapon. This pulse was supposedly sent to specific Phoenix spike sites, key energetic points, claimed to be located at the World Trade Center and the Pentagon.
So in this narrative, a major global tragedy is presented as essentially cover for an attack on the planet's energy grid by these same factions.
That is the specific and quite extraordinary perspective offered in these sources, yes. It's used as an illustration of how major world events are supposedly folded into this hidden conflict and the UIR's deception plan.
Okay, so if we look at this whole picture claims of technological mind control, infiltrating spiritual movements, twisting ancient legends, reframing huge global events, what's the underlying strategy here? What are they supposedly trying to achieve with all this manipulation?
Well, the core strategy presented seems to be about controlling consciousness, suppressing or distorting knowledge about human potential, about Earth's true energetic nature, about our history, and ultimately preventing humanity from following its intended evolutionary path, that Christos realignment mission.
Keeping us limited, basically, unaware.
Exactly. Unaware of our full capabilities and the bigger picture, according to these texts.
It's quite a picture of pervasive manipulation, touching, well, everything from our minds to our myths. So after painting this rather grim scenario, do the sources offer a way out? Is there a path forward presented?
Oh, absolutely. They definitely pivot towards that. The sources detail what they describe as the founder's counterplan and humanity's crucial role in it. This plan is the Christos realignment mission we talked about.
Based on the D12 pre-matter Christos divine blueprint.
Precisely. That's presented as the original intended evolutionary template for Earth and humanity.
And who are the key human players in making this happen, according to these documents?
Angelic humans generally, but specifically individuals identified as indigo children, are described as absolutely crucial.
Why them specifically?
They are said to possess higher DNA potential, naturally, holding more active strands, 12-strand or even up to 24-strand DNA templates, allegedly containing universal signet master key codes.
So they have innate capabilities.
That's the claim. And the sources state they incarnated, particularly during that critical 2017 window, specifically to help counteract the fallen angelic plans and, well, stand with humanity during this final conflict.
So certain humans are presented as being genetically equipped, you could say, to resist this manipulation and assist the planet.
That's how it's framed in these texts. And importantly, the sources outline specific methods, actual tools, for countering the deception and activating this potential in everyone.
Not just the indigos.
No, for everyone. They describe these as peaceful Christiac technologies of Masters Biotronic, Merkaba, and Planetary Templar mechanics. Essentially tools of empowerment.
Okay, like what specific techniques do they mention?
Well, one key thing they mention is Maharic Shield bioregenesis techniques.
Maharic Shield? What does that do?
These techniques are explicitly described as ways to begin the process of this inner awakening. They're directly linked in the text to awakening the inner Christos and activating what they call the D12 avatar identity.
So it's about reclaiming inner power, higher connection, making oneself less susceptible to manipulation.
That seems to be the core idea, yes.
Yeah.
Strengthening your own energetic field and connection.
And they also mention rainbow roundtables, or RRTs.
Yes. These are described as a form of crisis intervention, supposedly conducted by guardian nations, often with indigo children asked to assist directly.
What do these RRTs aim to do?
Their purpose is stated as balancing Earth's grids, realigning the stargates, that's part of the Christos reclamation mission, and running specific energy patterns called tribal shield fire letters.
Fire letters. Complex stuff.
That sounds it. Described as specific light-sound templates. The ultimate goal is achieving planetary D12 Maharic seal protection. So this points to conscious collective effort, using specific energetic techniques to counteract interference on a planetary level.
Collective effort, okay. And underlying all of this seems to be DNA activation.
That seems to be perhaps the most fundamental piece, especially for the individual. The sources really emphasize that assembling and activating more DNA strands is key.
How much activation is needed, according to them?
They give examples, like needing 4.5 strands active just to enter a specific positive time track called the bridge zone, and aiming for 5 or 6 strands for higher ascension paths.
And activating DNA leads to?
To expanding consciousness, firstly, but also, crucially, gaining claimed immunity to some of these manipulation technologies, like that frequency fence we talked about. And it enables individuals to consciously participate in the Christos mission.
So, activating our own potential, our DNA, is presented as the way to literally become immune to some manipulation and participate in the positive path.
That's the core message for the individual, yes. The sources really stress that understanding this information, but more importantly, actually engaging in the practices they outline, like the Maharic shield, is presented as the way for people to rise to the occasion,
Rise to the occasion. How?
to break free from those limiting self-concepts imposed by outside forces, as the text put it, and to consciously choose a positive timeline, avoiding the negative outcomes predicted if the fallen angelic agenda were to fully succeed.
So it's a combination of individual, spiritual, and energetic practice, collective work like the RRTs, and this fundamental DNA activation that's the path out of the manipulation presented in these sources.
That really sums up the path forward they lay out, yes.
Wow. Okay, so we've gone from hidden interdimensional wars, claimed ancient betrayals being totally reframed, technological mind control, right through to the alleged manipulation of spiritual practices and ancient stories. These sources paint an incredibly detailed picture of a pervasive effort to deceive and control humanity.
They certainly do. It's a heavy picture. But as you said, they strongly counterbalance that with this narrative of hope and really empowerment,
Yeah.
a potential path of ascension, self-realization, reclaiming our heritage.
Through understanding this claimed hidden history and activating our potential using these specific techniques like the Maharic shield, DNA activation, collective grid work.
Exactly. It puts the power ultimately back with the individual and the collective choosing to engage.
And it really brings it back to you, the listener. This information, as it's presented in these sources, suggests that maybe there are unseen forces actively working, trying to shape not just our world, but our consciousness, our history, our potential.
It raises some pretty profound questions, doesn't it, about how we discern truth, especially if these texts claim manipulation operates even within spiritual seeking itself.
Absolutely. If deception is supposedly happening on these deep levels, even co-opting spiritual guidance, then how do we find authentic guidance? How do we unlock our real potential? And perhaps the ultimate question these sources leave us with is, does the answer lie in looking outside to governments or even potentially deceptive ETs, or does it lie within in cultivating that connection to the inner Christos and activating the inherent power of our DNA, as these texts describe?
It's definitely something to mull over. Where do we place our trust, and where does true empowerment come from? A deep dive indeed.